Hello. Good morning, Pranav.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. So today we are with Ankar, na?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, madam.
Sir, we will start within 5 minutes. Is it
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. No problem. No problem.
Kirti madam already joined, sir.
Okay. Good morning, madam.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Pranav, sir.
Yes.
We can start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kirti madam, shall we start?
Yes. Kirti madam?
Yes, we can start. Yeah.
Very good morning to one and all. I, Pranav Chupalkatti, on behalf of JSPM Sir Rajarshi Shahu College of Engineering, Department of Electronics and Telecommunication, heartily welcome you all for the first session of day 6 of 2 weeks faculty development program on artificial intelligence and its applications in biomedical engineering. Today, we have with us an eminent speaker, Mrs. Kirti Bihade, to deliver session on topic deep learning. I heartily welcome you, madam, on behalf of ENTC department.
Thank you, sir.
I feel extremely honored to introduce her today. Currently, she is working at Infogen Labs Private Limited as studio partner for data analytics and AI studio. She has 3 years of experience as quality and production engineer at Microverse Automation Private Limited. She also has worked as an assistant professor at MMCOE for 7 years. She is currently pursuing her research in deep learning at Department of Technology, Savitribai Phule Pune University. She completed her master's from Bharati Vidyapit in 2010 and bachelor's of engineering from Government College of Engineering Amravati in 1999. She is Microsoft Certified Data Science Associate and Microsoft Certified Trainer for Data Science. She has completed machine learning, neural network, and deep learning courses from Stanford University by Andrew. We are fortunate to have you with us today. I welcome you again and request you to start the session. Thank you, madam.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Shall I start the session?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Good morning, all participants. Good morning, students. Thank you all for joining this session. As today's topic is deep learning and its application in biomedical engineering. So there are two things that when we are considering any topic, suppose this is a deep learning and biomedical engineering, there are two things that we should know what exactly deep learning is, and we should know the what are the applications are, what are the topics in biomedical engineering in which we can apply the deep learning concept. Now, considering the audience, I think we should start what exactly deep learning, and then we will move towards the application of deep learning. Because if we'll not know the flow of deep learning, that is how it is working, how we are using deep learning, why deep learning, then we'll reach to certain point, then we can start the applications in biomedical engineering. So initially I will start from the deep learning topic, and then we'll go to the next part, that is applications. So I am going to share my screen. Is it visible to all?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So currently I'm working in Infogen Labs Private Limited, as Sir said. Here I am responsible for AI applications. We have worked on different AI applications such as object detection. Then we have implemented face recognition system for our employees. And there are different data science projects. Recently, we are focusing on the data science kind of thing. We are handling millions of data, and we are giving insights to the client, and we are doing the predictive analysis on the existing data. So that is what we are working. There are so many things we are working, but just to let you know, this is what I am doing at the Infogen Labs. We are handling a team in AI and data analytics and data science. Now, actually the today topic is directly the deep learning, but as all these things are like very much entangled with each other, we cannot say that machine learning is different, neural network is different, and deep learning is different, right? So when we are saying machine learning, that we are providing certain features to the machine so that machine can learn. I'm hoping that everybody is having some background regarding machine learning, because our topic is deep learning. That's why I will go a little faster so that we can move towards the application. But if you want something in detail, please let me know in the chat box so that I can stop and I can elaborate more for the things you wanted more. Is it okay, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So when we are saying machine learning, so on the upper part or the surface level, everybody knows that machine learning is some who is learning from there are algorithms developed. To that algorithm, we have to provide data, and from that data, from that features, machine will learn. So at this level, everybody knows now, because everywhere there are terminology like machine learning, AI, deep learning, data science, data analytics. But the very first thing everybody should know, if somebody wants you to work with the data science project or the machine learning project or anything regarding to the deep learning, very first thing that you must have data. Without data, you cannot do anything, and you cannot work on like 10 or 25 kinds of data, or if we can say the rows in terms of, or there are images, because data could be of any kind. It could be audio data, it could be image data, it could be text data, right? So there are different kinds of data. We can work with machine learning algorithms, we can work with deep learning algorithms, but if you don't have data, you cannot proceed further. Okay, so if somebody asking you to work on the deep learning project, somebody is asking you to work on the biomedical application, the first of all, you should know you can ask for the data, because everybody cannot be expert in the deep learning. People will come with the project, or people will come with the objective that I want to classify whether this particular disease is like whether there is a breast cancer or not, whether there is a pneumonia or not, or I want to classify my EEG or the ECG signal. But they don't know. Those who is not conversant with the deep learning concept, they will not know. They will just say that you developed the application for us. But as an the deep learning, if you can say that I want ample amount of data, if you don't have data, you cannot work on the deep learning project, means you will not get accuracy at all. So very first thing, always keep it in mind that any machine learning, any deep learning project, The very first thing is what? Data. Without data, nothing will work. And data is not like 10 images or 20 images. You will require millions of images. Then only you can work. Then only you will get accuracy. So that is very first thing. Now, when we are saying machine learning, neural network and deep learning, machine learning algorithms works on the features. Now, features means what? Whenever anything is provided to us or any data is provided to us, whether it is in the form of images, whether it is in the form of text, initially we have to work on that data to provide important information to the machine learning algorithms. Now, when we are saying important information, what is that information? Okay, so when I want to extract the information from images and I don't want to give algorithm direct as a images, so what I will do, suppose you will take an example of like a breast cancer detection. Okay, so there are very different kinds of cell having different diameter, different radius. There are so many different things, smoothness and everything, perimeter regarding that particular cells, thickness of that cell. So these are, we can call it as a features, and there are multiple features, not only 10 or 15 features. There are like 500,000 kinds of different features, or we can say important information regarding that particular disease that the algorithm should know before proceeding further. Okay, so data could be of two types. Straight away you can provide the images of the like breast cancer, or any other thing, maybe X-rays in case of the pneumonia detection, or maybe the EEG signal when you want to do something related to the brain, or maybe it will be the ECG signal when you want to do it's related to the heart thing. Okay, so there are like different amounts of biomedical application when we are saying. But yes, when we are considering machine learning, you have to work on the feature level. You have to provide machine learning important features. So you should know the domain knowledge of whatever applications you are doing, whether you are working in any kind of thing, pneumonia detection, everything. You should know that when you are giving important information to the machine, you should be very much conversant with the domain knowledge. Like when we are saying you want to use deep learning with the biomedical engineering application, so on what application you are working, you should know it. What is the objective of that application? What you want to do? You want to predict the disease, or you want to classify the disease, whether the disease is there or it will not be there, or you want to predict something that it may occur within 2 years or within 1 year. So like that. So there are different kinds of things. So based on your application, you have to decide whether to apply machine learning or whether to apply deep learning. Okay. Now, as our today's topic is deep learning, I will just fastly go to the machine learning. That machine learning will require the man-made features. You have to work on the images, you have to work on the data, and you should know the features you are going to provide to the machine learning. And whatever initial phases of data, you will work on the data pre-processing and everything. And then you'll get to know this thing. Okay. And as I said, if you want to work on the classification, you have to provide classification algorithm. If you want to work on the regression or the prediction, you have to work on that kind of algorithm. So this is what the machine learning is. As I said, this is applicable to deep learning also, because deep learning is nothing but the subset of machine learning. And how the deep learning is different than machine learning, I will explain you later on. But this terminology, that is unsupervised, supervised, clustering, classification, regression, all this is applicable to the deep learning also. So just forget about this. Deep learning is nothing but it is a subset of machine learning. So initial level is machine learning, then neural network will come, and the deeper part of neural network is nothing but the deep learning. Okay, so when we are saying that we want data, right? So data must be there, but there are two kinds of data available in the nature. When we have a data of, suppose, X-ray images, as I'm going to show you that example of pneumonia detection. So I will be having different kinds of X-rays. Some X-rays will be having pneumonia, and some X-rays will be having of a patient having no pneumonia. Okay, so there will be two kinds of databases, because my job is, the application is demanding from my deep learning project. The objective is that I have to decide whether this particular person is having pneumonia or it is having no pneumonia. Okay. Now you can say at this point that doctors are available, right? They can tell me that just by observing the X-ray that yes, this kind of patient is having pneumonia or not. But see, sometimes there is a misclassification by doctor side also. there could be, if early detection of any disease, it is always good, as we can say that stitching time saves 9. So that kind of applications are like deep learning is going to be used in, or we are using rather, in the biomedical application, so that at an early stage we can predict that disease and we can avoid next consequences. For that purpose also we are using deep learning. Now, as I said, there could be two types of cases, that there is a pneumonia and there is no pneumonia. Means we know that this particular X-ray is of pneumonia and this is of no pneumonia. That kind of data, we can call it as a labeled data, because I know the label, I know the output for that data. Now, when such type of data we provide to the algorithm, whether it is a machine learning algorithm, whether it is a deep learning algorithm, that kind of type, we can call it as a supervised learning. Supervised means we have provided all kind of like data to the machine learning, that we are teaching to the algorithm that yes, this X-ray is nothing but it is a pneumonia X-ray. This X-ray is nothing but it is a no pneumonia X-ray. So we are telling him, we are providing information, we are feeding him, and consequently, when we are providing more and more data, that algorithm will get trained, and then at certain point he will come to know that when I will provide him new image, the new person image, that I don't know whether it is having a pneumonia or no pneumonia thing, that particular stage the algorithm will reach to a certain accuracy, or I can say that if I'll provide like millions of images, he'll give me 100% result that yes, this particular image is of, it is of no pneumonia. So such kinds of algorithm are comes under the supervised learning, and there is a classification in the machine learning things, that these kinds of algorithms are suitable for the supervised learning, these kinds of algorithm are not suitable for the supervised learning. So means you should know the level of that data, you should know the label data, and then only you can apply. And for the supervised, you can do the classification and you can do the regression. Regression is nothing but prediction of that disease. Because why I'm saying there are so many applications, but I will talk about the biomedical engineering only, because our topic is based on that. So we can do the classification, whether there is a cancer or no cancer, whether this is a certain disease or no disease, like whether there are chances of heart attack or no, like that. And then prediction is again the thing, we will predict at an initial level whether that this is going to be there or not. Okay. Now the second part is unsupervised learning. Now it is in the nature, it is not always true that all the data will get labeled data, right? It is okay that there are some applications, some data you'll get the label data, but there are certain images that we don't know whether like they are having that particular disease or they are having data. Somebody will just give you data, like, and they can ask you that just find the patterns in the data. I don't know what is this data. You just take this data, you apply your algorithms, whatever machine learning, deep learning, and give us the patterns from that data. That certain kind of data is comes, it is showing different kind of pattern, and certain kind of data is showing different kinds of pattern. Now for this kind of application, you can work on that data, but yes, supervised learning can give us best result. But in the unsupervised learning, you can see the patterns, and this data is showing certain that is maybe it is a gender basic, that it is in the male kind of things, this data is showing this kind of features, in the female this data is showing such different kinds of features. Okay, so this comes under the unsupervised. It is specifically for finding the patterns in the data. It is applicable for deep learning. We will not go to these things. Okay, now neural network is like a prerequisite for the deep learning. Okay, so neural network is nothing but it is acting, basically it is a mimic of the human neuron, how the human neuron is getting stored, information is getting stored in the neuron, and how we are processing that information, how we are storing that information, how from the nature we are extracting features and we are storing it in our brain, and whenever needed, that information we are using to recognition of the certain object, to recognition of the certain person. So the scientist observed everything based on the neuron, and they mimicked that neuron, and that we are calling it as a neural network. Okay, so basically this is regarding that. Sir, let me know if participants expect in more detail, then I will go. Otherwise, it should not be like one way thing. They can chat and they can ask me the question, so that at the end of thing we can answer that questions.
Yes, ma'am. Participants are requested to put their queries in chat, if any. We'll be having the QA session at the end, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
So now I will directly switch to the deep learning part. As I said, when we are using machine learning, we have to give certain important data to the machine learning regarding the diameter, regarding the radius. It is just I'm talking about certain kind of sales information when we are providing to the machine learning algorithm. But why deep learning, right? Now we have huge amount of data basically, and earlier why we were not using deep learning and now why we are using deep learning. Okay. Now there are the different things. Earlier we were not that much powerful in the computation kind of thing. Okay, so we know that there is a difference between a normal audio data and the video data or the image data. Okay, so images take more space to store that particular amount of data. So in that, again I have said that data is very much important and you will need ample amount of data when you want to feed any data to the deep learning algorithm to get a certain level of accuracy, right? So when data, earlier we were not having that much data available with us, but now as we have everything, every now and then we are sending data, as you are saying, on the Facebook or on the Instagram, or so many social media platforms available to us. So every time we are sending, or every second we are sending like petabytes of data, you can say, in terms of images. And in medical field also, or in the biomedical engineering also, we have ample amount of images, ample amount of data. So the requirement is data, and now the data is available to us so that we can make the predictions, we can make the classification. So this is one requirement. It is getting fulfilled for the deep learning. Now second, when we want to process that data, we need very high computations, very fast computations. Okay, so earlier, before 10 years ago, when somebody wants to train machine learning algorithm, it will take 10 days, 20 days, 30 days to reach to a certain level of like the algorithm will train and train and train, and then it will give result. Okay, so such kind of things were there. But now there are like GPUs available. We have cloud computing, we have Microsoft, we have AWS. Okay, so we can use that resources also. It is not necessary. Earlier there you will need the desktop having GPUs and everything, but now that it is also getting fulfilled by the cloud computing. We have available GPU on the cloud. You can use for a certain amount of time. You can run your algorithm. You can get the results. Same thing. So the second part is what? Computation. Then there is like a big data management is also there, distributed computing and everything. So the things needed, that is, we can now prepare, the ingredients are ready with us. We have data, we have computation, handling capacity. So we have everything. We have recent algorithms which will work on the data, which will take the features from the data. So all the ingredients are ready with us, and so that we can prepare train the algorithm and we can get a good amount of output. Okay, so that's why deep learning is taking off. There is no other reason. Earlier data was available with us, but very less amount. We were not able to do the computations. So that kind of things were there, and why these days we are talking about deep learning and artificial intelligence. Okay, so all these things are entangled with each other. Okay, so there are different kinds of algorithms which we can say that in the deep learning. Okay, now before going to this, I will show you some other thing which can make everything clear. Okay, have anybody seen this neural network playground, participants? Okay, we'll talk later on this. Now, this is one website. You can just type on your browser that neural network playground and you will open this thing. Okay, because neural network is a very like basic thing of the deep learning network, and then neural network will get evolved how it is to the deep learning. So when we are saying that we are working on any machine learning or the deep learning project, I said that we have to provide some input features to the machine, like as these are X1, X2, X3. Okay, there could be like 1,000 features, 1,000 important information we are providing to the machine learning. And then there are different kinds of like in between layers. These are what logical units that have the capability to do the computations, to the mathematics, so that the important information from this data, I will get the output, I will get the classification. Okay, But initially I have to tell that algorithm that I want this kind of classification, I want regression, I want classification, that kind of thing. So always whenever there is any deep learning architecture, there is an input, there is output, and in between there are different kinds of layers which are made up of neurons. So there could be a, like, this is one layer, I have increased the number of neuron, you can increase the number of hidden layers also. Okay, so the number of hidden layers you will increase, the deep learning will be more complex. Okay, why we are calling it as a deep learning? If these layers are less, only that is input layer, there are only two hidden layers, and there is output layer, that is a simple neural network. But if in between there are more hidden layers having more neurons, that is, we can call it as it is a deep learning, because algorithm is working on the complex images and it has to work on so mathematical calculations that it will need more mathematical logical units to pass through that data to reach to a certain output. Okay, now here I am showing only 7 hidden layers, but in the real neural deep learning algorithms, they are having thousands of hidden layers. They are having thousands of neurons, different kinds of mathematical computation. But we are very lucky that we don't have to look at this. For us now, this will become a black box. Initially, when you want to learn deep learning, yes, you should know that what is the process, but we cannot observe what exactly is happening inside, how the image is getting processed, how is the data is getting processed. Everything will be like a black box. Algorithms are already designed. We have to just give the data, we have to divide that data into the training and testing sets, and you have to ask the algorithm whether that type of algorithm is working for the classification, whether it is working for the regression, and then you will train the algorithm based on that, and then you will get the output. So this is what the deep learning works. So now here there is a problem type, whether you want to do the classification. Suppose I have selected the classification. Now this terminology should be known to us. I'm expecting that learning rate to the algorithm, that from what rate the algorithm should learn, whether it is a 1, whether it is a 0.3. So always this learning rate for the deep learning or the machine learning algorithm, it is generally you have to consider from 0 to 1 and not more than that. Now, again, there is very mathematical kind of thing. If you know the gradient descent algorithm, if the learning rate is like more than 1, the algorithm may not behave properly and it will give the misclassification, or it will not predict the good amount of thing. So this you have to work on if you really want to interested into a deep learning. These terminologies are very important. What is the learning rate? What should be the learning rate? Is there anything the learning rate you should know earlier? No, you have to always try an error between 0 and 1 learning rate, and you will get certain optimum value that yes, at this point of learning rate, my algorithm is giving good classification, the accuracy of algorithm is less, and then you can fix that learning rate. Okay, so this is a one thing. Then there are activations functions, that is which type of activation you should use. There is a ReLU, there is a tanh, there is a sigmoid, and there is a linear activation function that you can decide. But again, as I say, there are libraries like a scikit-learn libraries, there are TensorFlow frameworks, there are Keras frameworks in which they have taken care of all these things. No need to do, but yes, initially to make you conversant with the things, so that you will not feel at what exactly deep learning is. You can just go through this terminology, that what are the activation functions. Then the regularization kind of thing, that is L1 and L2 regularization. Now, what is this for? When you are training your algorithm or any deep learning kind of thing, deep learning algorithm or machine learning, so sometimes there is a overfitting or underfitting of the algorithm. Now, underfitting of the or the overfitting of algorithm is that when you are providing the training data to the algorithm and you are training your algorithm on the training data, you are testing your algorithm on the same training data. Okay, it is just like a kid that you taught him like addition, okay, on the certain problems, that is 10 problems you have taken, you taught him addition, and then when you tested him, you took the problems from that training data only, and then he'll give you 100% result because he has been taught on that particular 10 amounts of problem, right? And
Hello,
then
ma'am. Sorry to disturb you.
yeah,
We have a message from participants to put the PPT in presentation mode. Can you make it full
Oh,
screen?
sorry. Maybe I
Yeah.
have to stop my earlier screen and yeah. 1 minute. Is it visible now?
Yeah.
Uh,
The web page is visible.
yeah, web page. I'm explaining the web page only.
Yeah. That is
Sorry,
visible.
participants, I missed that. I should share this. So this is what the neural network playground is, what I was explaining it. This is the input, right? And these are the outputs, what you want to do, whether you want to do the classification or whether you want to do the regression. That is, if you are at the initial level of learning, deep learning, then you can just play through this to get an idea. Now, when we are saying deep learning, these are the hidden layers. The hidden layers will be like thousands of hidden layers. These neurons will be a thousands of neuron, and each neuron is responsible to do the mathematical computations. So internally, this what exactly the output of this hidden layer we cannot see, because the algorithm can show you directly the output. But yes, there are certain parameters that we can call it as a hyperparameter. We can tune that hyperparameter. We can work on that hyperparameter to get the good accuracy of your deep learning or the machine learning algorithm. That's what I was explaining to you. So I was explaining learning rate. It could be from 0 to 1. That is what the range should be. It could not be more than 1, because the algorithm will behave in a weird manner. It will not give the correct output. So this is, we are calling it as a tuning kind of thing. This is a hyper parameter, that is an extra parameter. It is, you have to tune it based on that. You can just less or more. Based on that, you can check the accuracy, and you can put it to the optimum level, that yes, at this 0.003 I'm getting a good accuracy. But again, you have to check the time for the computation also. If the learning rate is low, it will take the more computation time. And if the learning rate is high, it will give you result in the less amount of time, but the algorithm will not behave properly. Okay, so there are what we can say pros and cons. There is always trade-off. So you should know the meaning of learning rate. You should know what it should be between, so that you can train your algorithm based on that learning rate. And these are called as the hyperparameters. Then there are activation functions. Some activation functions are good for classification. Some activation functions are good for regression kind of algorithm. Some activation like this linear kind of analysis. So this also you should know. Then regularization kind of thing I was explaining. Why regularization? Because there is a overfitting or underfitting of algorithm. As I was explaining, that if you are training your kid for only 10 specific addition problems and you are testing him on that problems only, he will give you like 100% result, correct? The fantastic result, yes, he passed with 100%. And the moment you will provide him, like you taught him 2-digit addition and you are providing him with 3-digit addition, there will be like, he'll not give you the result, he'll fail. This kind of algorithm, if is giving you this kind of result, that on training data his 100% algorithm is giving you 100% result, and on testing data he is giving you 50% accuracy, discard that algorithm. Okay, or not algorithm, you have to work on your data. Means you are providing him very specific amount of data. Your data is not generalized, where it is not considering all kind of features, and you are not getting good results. Okay, so that is what the regularization is. You have to think for the overfitting, you have to think for the underfitting. So this is what the overfitting. Now underfitting means again the different kinds of thing. So it will not give you the certain results. It will there are different kinds of features, and it will not work properly. It will not give good results on the training data also, and it will not give good results on the testing data also. So all kinds of things you have to be in sync. You should know this regularization rate also, it is just like a learning rate, but these two things are different. This you have to work for the overfitting and underfitting kind of thing. And this is for the algorithm's time, how much time the algorithm will take to reach to a certain level of accuracy. So you have to do like tuning kind of thing. Trade-off is there, and you think of that. This is the classification regression. Just what I will do then, ratio of training to test the data. Generally there is a 80-20 kind of thing. If you have data of suppose 100 images, it is for example, don't give 100 images only to the deep learning algorithm. If your data for 100 images, 80 images you can use for the training, and 20 images you can use for the testing kind of thing. You cannot train the algorithm all 100 kinds of images and you will test again 100 kind of images. You will not get to know whether it is giving you good accuracy because you are not providing algorithm with any new kind of data, right? So that's why you have to decide your ratio of training and test data. So always, most of the time it is 80-20, but yes, you can change it at a 70 and 30 kind of things. Now it is a batch size also. If you have less computation resources, right? You don't have GPU with you and you cannot work on 1,000 images in one go because you have to train our algorithm. So you can just divide that data into the batches also, that at one time I will take 10 images and the second time 10, third time, and the algorithm will go on learning from that images. So that kind of thing also you can do, and you can regenerate. Just I will take this example and I will run this algorithm. What is happening? See, this is the loss. Now this algorithm is trying to classify the things, and this is the test loss. This is the training loss. So this, then you can stop this. So this is good thing for the to start to understand the neural network and to understand the deep learning. This is regression kind of thing. So we can give the linear activation function so that you can give us good results. Then data set you want to use, then ratio, and then again you can play. All the computations are happening inside. So now there are, again, not all problem you can solve with deep learning, right? Some problems there is no need of deep learning also, but this is what is happening. Everybody is interested in deep learning. So for any kind of problem, there is no need of use deep learning. So sometimes deep learning cannot give you good results. Okay. So that kind of thing is also there. So you can think of that. So is it okay? I think I have covered what, how deep learning is working.
Yes, ma'am.
Is presentation visible, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, when we are saying deep learning algorithm, most of you must be knowing regarding machine learning algorithm. There are regression, there is KNN, there is K-means clustering, there is XGBoost algorithm. Because now in the syllabus, I think machine learning and deep learning, most of the contents from the artificial intelligence have been added for the ENTC group also. So we must be conversant with that. Now when we are saying data in the biomedical engineering also, as I said, there are signals like ECG signal, EEG signal, brain signals, heart signals. That kind of data is also there. There is a data in terms of like numbers, cell size. When we are saying breast cancer or other kind of bone related diseases, we have the size, we have length, we have parameter, we have stiffness, we have thickness. So this is in numbers, right? So there we have data in numbers. We have data in the form of images. As we are saying, there is a CT scan, MRI, X-ray, this kind of data, and there is a signal form of data. So there are three kinds of data in the nature available, or in the biomedical applications. We have numbers, we have signals, and we have like images. Okay. So there are algorithms which are good on images. There are algorithms which are good to work on signals, and there are algorithms which will work on the like data kind of thing, that is numbers kind of thing. So before proceeding for the applications of deep learning, you should go, if anybody of you are interested or you are working on your PhD problem statement which is based on the deep learning and you are giving the image data, this is the very basic algorithm, that is convolutional neural network, and how it is working, that you should know this, and you can go through this and how this algorithm is classifying your input image, whether it is a bird or whether it is this kind of thing. But when you want to classify a particular images, suppose in this 4 types, okay, so what should be your requirement? You must have ample amount of data for all these 4 kinds of images. You must be having dog images 10,000, sunset maybe 12,000, bird maybe like 5-6,000, cat maybe again more than, so different in terms of thousands. Okay, so you will need all these images. Now if it is a supervised machine learning, convolution neural network comes under supervised machine learning. So you should know the label of all these images when you will provide to the convolution neural network, right? Now, what is the job of convolution neural network? It is very smart. Deep learning algorithms are very smart. You don't have to do anything. You have to just provide the images. You have to provide the label to that algorithm. Algorithm is enough smart. He will extract the important features from your image. See, for the machine learning algorithm, there is a difference. You have to provide feature to the algorithm. You have to extract the features from algorithm. That is, as this is the cell size, this is the thickness, this is the smoothness in terms of biomedical application, and then algorithm will start working. So some work you have to do from your side. You should know the domain knowledge of that particular field, and then only you can use the machine learning algorithm. So one part more in the machine learning is that you have to work on at a feature level. But for the deep learning, you can straight away work on the images, give images and give labels to the deep learning algorithm. And if you have enough amount of data, the algorithm will give 100% accuracy, because the example you must be knowing that in the digit recognition, or there are different kinds of net, AlexNet, ResNet, which are the subsets of convolution neural network. For the images, the CNN is the heart of all deep learning algorithm. All the algorithm which are working on the images, they are using this CNN kind of architecture. Okay, so because initially when we work on the deep learning part, generally we'll get confused what is CNN, what is recurrent neural network, what is GAN, that is general adversarial network. So all these things will get confused, but don't get confused. There are different things for the different application, but the heart is always convolution neural network. So you should know that how it is working internally. It is enough smart to extract the features. Now, when we are saying birds, he'll just use the image processing inside. When we are saying convolution, as we are ENTC staff, we are comfortable in understanding what is convolution. Okay, so just I will give an example. When I will do rectangular to rectangular convolution, I will get triangular output, right? And the triangular outputs peak I will get when two rectangular things will superimpose on each other, right? That is nothing but what the object detection is. When the peak of signal you will get, you can say that yes, I found the object. So that is what the application, that is what the concept is getting used in the convolution neural network. So that convolution and this convolution is not at all different. That is, we are using only the one dimensional signal, and here in the images we are playing with the 2D. That's why you can see that the things is little different, but that is not everything. I am saying that ENTC engineers can understand deep learning, machine learning very well than the computer engineers. It is not the field of only software or the computer engineer, because as I have progressed to the ENTC kind of thing, signals and system, everything, probability we know very well. We worked on the signal coding, estimation theory. So all these concepts will be useful in the deep learning. The thing is that basically before starting to work exact algorithm level, just work on the basic algorithm, how CNN is working, how our convolution, what we have studied in the classroom or we are teaching to the students, how we can apply over here. So really this is very interesting. When I started learning this convolution neural network, I was like, yes, we are, when we have used this kind of concept, but at that time we even don't know the application, why we are learning this convolution thing, or why we are doing rectangular to rectangular convolution. And when we are getting that triangular peak, what does that mean? That does mean we found that rectangular object, then only the peak will get, that is exact superimposed we are getting. So this is only the heart of convolution neural network. So you can go through this. Now deep learning is nothing but it is computer vision. This kind of image we are seeing, that we can say these are the three dogs, but internally machine will learn everything in the forms of pixel, that this value is 08, 02, 22, because we know the image processing also, we know that every point has some pixel value. So this is what the computer sees, and all background he is doing all the convolution kind of thing, because the derivative is responsible for giving you the ages, and ages are nothing but the features of any images, right, which are responsible for understanding the things. Because as a human also, because artificial intelligence is like mimicking the human, how is human behaving. So as a human also, what we are doing, we are extracting features from the nature. We are just keeping in our neurons that what is the length of the nose, or what are the eyes are looking. And when that particular person will comes in front of us, we will that retrieve that information, will recognize as this person is this object is chair, or this is table. So ultimately what we are doing, we are extracting the features and we are storing it inside our neuron. The same things are happening in the deep learning. It is extracting the important features, age information. So everything is a derivative in the deep learning. So it is really very interesting, because we are learning, we know everything. The people who directly learn deep learning, they don't know the concept, but as a faculty, we know what is convolution, we know what is derivative, we know how we are reaching to the optimum level, how we are finding the minimum value when we do derivative equal to 0. That is nothing but the optimization of algorithm. We can optimize the algorithm using the derivative. We know the Sobel filter, we know the like filters, all filters, like. So this is what it is. It is not really difficult at all if you want to really land into the deep learning kind of thing. For the ENTC faculty or the ENTC students, so you can very well land into the deep learning kind of thing. So these are how the internally edges are getting found. So internally all derivative concepts are being used in the convolution neural network. Convolution, what we are learning at the second year level students, because there are some students in the this Zoom meeting. So how we are extracting the ages, and same kind of things is getting used in this convolution neural network, how it is working on the neurons, and they are getting fed to the hidden layer, first hidden layer, and how it is extracting the features. These are the activation functions, how we are like redundant information we are removing from the images. So all it is happening inside this neurons level, and there are more kinds of neurons, and we are calling it as a deep learning. And ultimately the algorithm will be having a set of features for car, set of features for truck, set of features for airplane, ship, and horse. And then ultimately he has like, yes, stored information, and some new car will be coming for the detection or for the testing. Yes, he will match with the features he has stored in his data. And then yes, he'll say, yes, 90% I can say that this is car, 10% I can say that this is truck. And ultimately it is a probability. Like, no algorithm will say 100%, but yes, accuracy is really good. There are some algorithms who work more. So how the filters are working internally. For ENTC, it is really not difficult to understand. It is just a 2D kind of thing. Yeah. So this is from my side. Before moving to the applications, because I have one pneumonia detection, yes, I would like to show you how it is working really application level. So before proceeding, if you have any questions from the participants, it will be good. Hello, sir. Any questions from participants?
No, ma'am. We'll take the QA session at the end.
Yeah, so I will finish in maybe 10-15 minutes, and then we can take the QA sessions.
Yes, ma'am.
As I said, for the deep learning, we need a ample amount of data. So first you should know whether you want to do the classification or regression. So data set you can get on the Kaggle, or there are data set repositories available. For the initial practice level, you can take the data from Kaggle also. You will get that data. Now this is the chest X-ray images of both the things, that is pneumonia and no pneumonia. So now that's why the number of classes are 2. We're going to classify the things. Then the size of images, that there are 5826 images, that is 5856 images total. There are training images 5260. There are validation. Yes, I forgot to tell you validation. You can do the validation of your data set also by taking that 80-20 criteria, convert it into 70-30 and like that. Then you have the testing images like this. Yes, but for the training, you have to give more amount of images. You cannot do like 20-80 kind of thing. It should be 70-30 or 80-20. So that's why These are the training images, these are the validation images, and these are the testing images. Okay. Now, as I said, the base model is Inception V3 and the custom deep convolution neural network. So convolution neural network will be there. That is CNN is heart. And then based on that, people have modified the internal neurons. People have changed the activation function. They have changed the max pooling kind of thing. So learning rate, regularization thing. So based on that, they have named their algorithm like there's AlexNet, ResNet, Inception V3, and you'll get on the net. But don't get confused that there are so many things. How should I learn the deep learning? If you learn the convolution neural network in detail, you'll get to know everything. That is not different. Then the optimizers means you have to lessen the computation complexity, you have to increase the accuracy. That's why these are the things. Then as I said, batch size, number of epochs. Now number of epochs, when you are saying, that is how many times you want to learn the algorithm. If you are increasing the epochs, there are chances that you will get a more accuracy, and but the time it will take more. That is also thing. So this also you have to check that how many number of epochs you want to give. Batch size means as one time you will give only 64 images to the algorithm to run, then next 64 up till it will complete all 5, 8, 5, 6 images. So deep learning is not only giving images to the algorithm. There are like other things also you have to work on, how many images you have, then whether you have that particular GPU thing with you or you have your normal CPU machine. If you have CPU machine, then you have to convert that images into like batch, the number of epochs, then accuracy, all that things. Accuracy will get after training and testing the things. So this, all these things you have to consider. Then you should know the metrics, that how to measure the accuracy. Okay, so there are different kinds of accuracy measures: mean, absolute error, mean square error. So all this path, you should know that, yes, I have worked on the deep learning kind of thing. Now my algorithm is ready. I have trained the algorithm. I have tested the algorithm. But what about the accuracy? And which kind of accuracy measure is important for this kind of algorithm? Okay, that also you should know. But yes, after learning this many things, there are not so many accuracy measures. There may be 5, 6 accuracy measures. For the classification, there are different. For the regression, there are different. So you can work on it. For the classification, there is a precision, recall, and FN score. Yeah. And these are the things. So it is already like, because it will take so much amount of time for the images. So it is output is ready for this algorithm. You have to do the data visualization thing, then pre-processing of the data. There are number of images you have to give. Then the number of cases, training, normal images and pneumonia images, how many you have. Now, again, there is a thing, your input should not be, this is just for the example I have taken. When you are training your algorithm, right, you will give like 2 classes. If it is a classification problem, if it is like yes or no kind of things, you will give the 2 kinds of images to the algorithm. Now, if you are providing, now in this case, see, having no pneumonia images are only like 1000 plus, and the pneumonia images are 4000 plus. And sometimes it may happen that you have like 1000 images of one class and you have 10,000 images of other class. Don't do this. This is algorithm will become a bias. That kind of algorithm is called as biased algorithm. So from starting, you have to work on the data, whether it should be like 5000, 6000, it is okay, but it could not be 1000 and 10,000, right? So your algorithm will behave biased. It is, you can just relate with the human behavior only, the algorithm. So you have to behave very properly while providing the data. You cannot behave weird with the data also. And you just give the data and it will give you good results. If you give him bad data, it will give the bad results. So that's why we are doing the image processing. The image processing is also important. I think your next session is based on the image processing. So when you work on the images, that is also the important parameter you have to work on, because if you provide like noisy images, it will take so much time, the accuracy will not be good. So this is what it is. And then finally, it will show you that how the first layer is working, how the parameters are there, filters, 70 by 75 convolution layer. This is 32 dimensional, means when we are saying 2 by 2, it is a algorithm is like 2 by 2 convolution layer. Now here, see why it is called as a deep learning. This is like 70 5 by 72 2D, that is convolution happening 75 by 75, and there are like 32 filters one behind the others. They are like at one time they are acting, and see the at how much computation complexities the deep learning is working, and that's why it is taking time. That's why we'll need the GPU, but the accuracy is more because the heavily computations are happening inside. There are like trainable parameters like 5,42,000. So that much parameters it has extracted from the data. Then finally, you have to classify your algorithm, that is whether it is giving a good accuracy, whether it is giving a misclassification also, because certain time you have to think that that is what the precision and recall is, that sometimes you have pneumonia and it will detect no pneumonia. That misclassification also you have to consider, only not the accuracy. Accuracy is not the important kind of thing only. You have to consider the misclassification also. That is, there is pneumonia, it is saying no pneumonia, there is no pneumonia, it is saying pneumonia. So that kind of measures also you have to provide as a deep learning engineer, as if you have designed the algorithm or if you are using on that algorithm. It is not the only job to show the accuracy. Accuracy is not important in terms of classification, precision and recall and F1 score. That is also important. So you have to think from that perspective also. And then finally you have to show the predictions. Here maybe you cannot see, but yes, there are show that this image is having prediction pneumonia, and prediction is also showing the pneumonia, as accuracy is 86%, because we don't have enough images when we were doing this training data, because that it is just a POC, not the real application. Just to understand, it was with you, so I said it is a biomedical application, so I should show how it is working. So at the end, you have to convert this application into a client-side application also. It is not just that you will show this particular Jupyter notebook to the client, right? So you have to write down the API. There will be a user interface. If it is at the doctor's place, then there should be like insert image or the upload image. Image will get uploaded. Then at the background, your algorithm will run, and then it will predict that yes, this is a no pneumonia image and this is the pneumonia image. But when you will work this, when it will get like 99% accuracy or almost 100% accuracy. Okay, so this way you can use your deep learning in the biomedical application. It is helping doctors to reach to the to avoid the misclassification. Radiologists are also using this machine learning, deep learning kind of thing for the epidemic or the pandemic to study the patterns. We can use deep learning. So there are heavy applications. If there is no biomedical field or medical field in which we are not using deep learning these days, there is every area we are using deep learning. And these are the things, and this things you have to all consider. There are many more things, but it is really difficult to explain at very deeper level in 1 hour or 1.5 hours. So I thought that I should show you something important that will help you at least understand the thing. So this is what from my side, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. I request Dr. Santosh Vagas sir to proceed with the QA session.
Okay, thank you, Pranav. Myself, Dr. S.C. Vagas, Associate Professor of UPC Department of JSPM's Rajarshi Shaw College of Engineering. Madam, some questions from audience. Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Question 1, supervised or unsupervised algorithm for classification, which one is better?
For classification algorithm, supervised will works very better for classification. Unsupervised is generally for the clustering kind of thing, to find the pattern, to do the customer segmentation, that this particular area is prone for this type of diseases. So such type of pattern recognition kind of thing, or the clustering, is best unsupervised algorithm. But for the classification, if you want to work on, the supervised is best. You should use the supervised algorithm for the classification.
Okay. Another question, what are the convergence criteria?
What are the
Convergence criteria?
conversion? I did not understand the question. Conversion criteria means what? I did not understand.
एक minute. Okay. Another question, could you please suggest a scope for research? The research
What?
related.
Research in biomedical engineering.
Yes.
Yeah, of course, there are always chances of research in biomedical engineering. We'll take the recent example because the COVID is, we are facing the COVID situation, and the COVID's, when we'll take the COVID X-ray and the pneumonia X-ray, like they are like looks very much similar. So this kind of thing. So you have a research scope that whether this X-ray is of pneumonia or whether this is the X-ray of COVID. So such kind of, there are so many applications when we are seeing EEG kind of thing, that is electroencephalogram or the brain signal. At every level, any medical application you will open, you have a chances of research, because at this level also there are some diseases we cannot predict earlier, right? Like a cancer kind of diseases you predict at the third level only, and it is really very dangerous. So if you could help by designing or by modifying such an algorithm so that you can predict it at early stage, or you can differentiate between the normal pneumonia and the COVID kind of thing, right? Because yes, this does also researchers are working. If you search that the classification between COVID and pneumonia, you will get some kind of data on the net. So the research is already there in the medical, and there is a lot of scope. Means deep learning is based in the biomedical engineering, artificial intelligence, and the people are using it. It is ongoing work.
Hello. Another question is, how can we visualize CNN all layers to understand how feature maps are created using filters?
Yes. So that's why I've asked him the convolution neural network. You cannot see what is happening inside the layer. So what you can do, as I said, as an ENTC engineer, I have shown that neural network playground, but we cannot see what exactly is happening. If I will provide image at the first level, we'll get to know that these are the kinds of features, that is maybe vertical line or the horizontal line are getting extracted. But as we'll go inside, that will become in the circular fashion or the exact kind of feature. But there is no chance that you can look at internal level. You cannot visualize what is happening inside thing. For that to do, you have to like write the mathematical kind of thing, and this will happen, this will happen. But this is way beyond of our imagination. We can just only imagine. We cannot visualize the output at the internal level of any deep learning neural network or any CNN. So that is the problem. You have to just visualize. You have to just think that this may be happening, because at the internal level, at the initial level, you know, you are giving images. As an engineer, you should know that yes, it may be extracting the edges, vertical edges, horizontal edges, because we are doing the convolution, we are applying the derivative filter inside the convolution neural network. Then as we are proceeding, the computations are so high that yes, it is extracting features, but what it is happening, how it is happening, how to visualize, there is no means, at least up till now, that we cannot visualize what is happening inside. Directly we'll get to know that this is the classification, this is the output. That
Okay.
we should study convolution neural network at a very deeper level, so that at least for our own, we should know that yes, CNN is working like this, and will not get confused that how we are getting direct output and what is happening inside. So this is just like a black box. We are giving input and we are getting output.
Okay. Another question is, do all CNNs have same filters?
No, they have different filter, they have different calculations based on the classification kind of thing we want to do. They are not having the same filters, because values in the filters, they will change.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, madam. Good afternoon, one and all. I, Dr. S.C. Vagas, on behalf of Rajarshi Shaw College of Engineering, Tathuri, Pune, extends a very hearty vote of thanks to dynamic personality, Mrs. Kirti Bihare, for sharing his valuable thoughts. Madam, thank you very much for exploring deep learning in artificial neural networks, convolution neural networks for biomedical image, why deep learning talking of uh, this session has given informative in this regard. Thank you very much, madam. Thank you, madam.
Yes, thank you, sir. It is before time, but I haven't considered like his basic things, so I have skipped that. Because as we have online session, so from participants we cannot like one-to-one discussion we cannot do with the participant, but yes, participants have any question, they can always reach to me regarding deep learning, and my email ID is with you people. You can share my email ID with the participants, so that in any case, if somebody needs any help, I can, if I
Yes,
could.
yes. Participant will ask questions through your email also. Okay, ma'am.
Yes, yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Can I leave now?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
हाँ प्रणव सर. Sir, Vagas sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Sir, tell the participants to rejoin the meeting at 11:45. Isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. I'll
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah.
Okay, participants are requested to join the meeting at 11:40 sharp. Thank you.